So, for the first time since 2010, John Elway is no longer officially a part of the Denver Broncos. When the new league year officially started on March 15th, John Elway's contract with the team expired. Of course, he spent 16 seasons with the organization as our franchise quarterback and face of the Denver Broncos, and then in 2011 he returned to the team to serve as our general manager, a role that he held for 10 seasons. After he stepped away as GM following the 2020 season, Elway spent the past 2 years as a consultant for the Denver Broncos. In an interview with Mike Kliss, Elway said that he still plans to maintain a close relationship with the organization, although not in an official capacity, and he says that he'll be more than happy to continue to serve as an ambassador and sounding board for the team. He said that he told Greg Penner that he would be happy to be a resource for him and help him in any way that he could. Elway continued that he wanted more flexibility with his time moving forward. He also went on to express confidence in the new Broncos leadership under new owner Greg Penner and GM George Paton. Elway was a part of 7 of the Broncos' 8 Super Bowl appearances, and he was responsible for all 3 of their victories, 2 as a player and 1 as GM. Not like there's any discussion here, but his greatest accomplishment as Broncos general manager was the signing of Peyton Manning in free agency. That signing, of course, helped propel the Broncos to the greatest 4-year period in franchise history. Our offense set records upon records upon records with Peyton Manning at the helm, and after Elway's historic free agent class in 2014 that saw them bring in guys such as Aqib Talib, DeMarcus Ware, TJ Ward, and Emmanuel Sanders, the Broncos boasted the best defense in the NFL in 2015 and one of the best defenses of all time. With all of the record-setting offenses that the Broncos had during the Peyton Manning era, ironically enough, it was the defensive-centric team, of course, in 2015 that ended up getting us the chip. You can really split John Elway's tenure as Broncos GM into 2 eras, the Peyton Manning era and the post-Peyton Manning era. Those were really a tale of 2 eras if we're being honest. During the Peyton Manning days, we were regarded, of course, as one of the best organizations in football, and although we did have our blemishes with our ownership situation, having a guy like Peyton Manning in the room really is effective deodorant for that kind of stuff. Once Peyton Manning retired following our Super Bowl championship, though, things really started to get exposed in terms of the warts in the Broncos organization. It started to come out that Joe Ellis had a little bit more influence on the organization than originally thought, and he started to really handcuff some of the moves that John Elway wanted to make. Now, that's not to excuse some of John Elway's own blemishes in terms of team building after Peyton Manning left. He doled out several bad contracts in free agency, especially on the offensive line. 2 of the worst I can think of are Menelik Watson and frickin' Jawan James. And then on top of that, there was the issue of failing to find a consistent head coach and failing to find a new franchise quarterback and successor to Peyton Manning. Over the past few years of his tenure as GM, it really felt like Elway was starting to fall out of favor with Broncos country. Ultimately, back in 2020, when it was clear that the Broncos were facing new ownership in the building, Elway felt that it was time for him to step aside. You also have to imagine that that move was influenced in part by Joe Ellis as well. Mike Kliss also added that this move from Elway was planned from both sides for quite a while. After Elway stepped aside as Broncos GM following the 2020 season, he was an instrumental part in hiring new GM George Paton to fill the void. Paton has certainly had his ups and his downs as Broncos GM, so it remains to be seen if that move truly left the Broncos in good hands or not. Although Elway is no longer officially a part of the team, he is still one of the faces of this franchise, and he will still be a big ambassador for what this team is trying to do moving forward. I gotta be honest, man, there are way too many people out there, especially outside of the organization, that don't realize that Elway is no longer the team's GM. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. Here's hoping that this new report will finally clarify things to some of the outside casuals. Alright, Broncos country, how do you guys feel about John Elway no longer being a part of the team? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. And while you're at it, guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for continuing Broncos coverage. And for now, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.